Hi there, my name's Rebecca Devitt. I'm the author of Why on Earth Homeschool, and today we're going to be reviewing BJU's Biblical Worldview curriculum. So I received a box in the mail and it had 6 different things. This is the box, and it had the whole package. So it had 2 Biblical Worldview textbooks. One was the Teacher's Edition and one was the Student's Edition. So I'll show you, this is the Student's Edition, and the Teacher's Edition is this one. Just says Teacher's Edition on the top. And then we had 2 activity manuals. So this is the Student Answer Key Activities Manual, and then you just had the plain activities manual which the student does their work in. And then you also had 2 testing pads, so one for the child and then the answer keys so the parent can quickly flick through and check the answers. So it's nice and easy. I don't know if you can see that, it's actually got the answers on the side there. I wonder if often we can just do a whole curriculum and not really think about the worldview that's being portrayed in that curriculum. I think most Christian curriculum on the market today do a great job of teaching kids, but I think this worldview textbook is a great way to just really focus in what do we actually believe as Christians, and then how does that affect what our beliefs and how we go about and do our job when we're older and that sort of thing. And that's where I think this worldview program is really good. I've been really impressed with it in terms of how it just puts the finger on the current issues and does that really well. It's not a sort of wishy-washy book that any denomination is going to be okay with. I did find that it was probably a little bit more Calvinistic, which was great. It's probably typical Southern Baptist thing. And I actually quite like that viewpoint. So I think in being really hard-nosed and presenting the Bible as it actually is, it will offend some people. So it's not a wishy-washy curriculum. But like I said, I really like that about it. Here's a look at the book. You can see how colourful it is, and that's the whole way, that goes the whole way through it. It is quite a colourful book. It's got lots of different pictures which illustrate different concepts. And what I really quite like about it is, I don't know if you can see up here, just on the side there, what that is it's an explanation box. So if your children are not familiar with the terminology, they can just look at the little explanation box, which is a bit of a dictionary, but just shows what the word means. So in this case, what it says is it says special grace, and it says the grace of God given to regenerate fallen sinners, the grace that makes people Christian. So it will explain the terms that it thinks maybe the students who are reading it may not know. So in terms of the contents of the book, it gives you a really good rundown on what is actually going to be covered in the book, and then in the student activities manual, and then eventually is going to be tested. So you've got different headings, and then that breaks it up even further. So you've got the first one is worldviews, and then it talks about presuppositions, our presuppositions, and a 2-story view. Second one is creation. God the creator, man and his mandate, everything God made was good. And then you've got the fall, so far as the curse is found, common grace, the world around you, structure and direction. And then it has redemption, gender, the man and woman distinction. It's got government, so the foundations of government, political perspectives, and the goal of government. In terms of our worldview, that's obviously really important because that has a big impact on how we vote and how we act as humans with the people around us. And then it's got science. So today there's this big question on, does science disprove God? And they tackle that head first, and they actually say science is something God created humans to do. So they're saying they're not mincing around the subject at all. They're tackling it head on. And then they talk about fallen science when it's not done well. And then they also they say reading Genesis and doing science. So that's really interesting. And then the same thing a little bit with history. So they talk about the foundations for history, fallen history, and history in light of redemption. And the last one they talk about is arts and culture, truth, goodness, and beauty. And I think that's got to do with the philosophical sort of old Greek perspective. The false, the bad and ugly, and creative cultivators. So that sort of gives you a little bit of an idea about what the curriculum is like. One thing you need to keep in mind with this curriculum that it is from an American perspective. So when they talk about things, they talk about the American presidents. I'm okay with that, as I kind of think that America is almost leading a lot of the other nations around it, but there's a lot of people in different countries who would find that and they wouldn't perhaps like that as much. So all the text is geared toward the American perspective. I like this curriculum because it is a curriculum that has a viewpoint that teaches children something that teaches an absolute right and wrong. So in the chapter on gender, chapter 5, it talks about cohabitation and divorce, and it has a little section called shacking up. So I'll just read you a little bit so you sort of get an idea of where it goes. There never was a golden age in which all the people in any nation followed God's ways and hated evil. Public morals always go up and down. Cultures trade new sins for old ones. There was a time, for example, when a US president could get away with racism but not adultery. Now it's the opposite. It would be best if he could get away with neither, of course. So there was a time in American society, a time your grandparents probably remember, when cohabitation was frowned upon. As a PBS special about the 20th century pointed out, cohabitation was almost impossible in the United States prior to 1960s. Laws prevented unmarried couples from registering in hotels, and it was very difficult for an unmarried couple to obtain a home mortgage. Only a tiny percentage of Americans cohabitated in 1960, but in the 40 years after that, cohabitation moved from disreputable and difficult to normal and convenient. Cultural pressure wasn't the only factor. Before the birth control pill came along in America in the 1960s, those having sex risked pregnancy. But the pill joined other cultural forces in the sexual revolution to twist the sexual morality of American culture and that of most other developed nations. So as you can see, it has a definite perspective, which I love, and it does talk about all those issues which are that we talk a lot about as Christians today. So a little bit further on in this section, it goes on to talk about, do Christians promote hate? Because obviously the question is, well, you know, if you don't promote me living together with my partner, then you obviously are hating. And this book goes on to explain that no, just because I don't hold that perspective, it's not because I hate. So I do like that it has lots of different viewpoints like that. Thank you for listening today. My name is Rebecca Devitt. Please like and subscribe for more of these videos and FAQs on homeschooling, and we'll be talking next time. Thanks. Bye.